We're live, senators.
Okay, so we are live, right?
Yep, the little red box.
Okay, yep, I'm just going to pull that up. I'm just looking at the calendar. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're live, and we're going to continue with the latest draft of the omnibus housing bill. And there was, I see David Hall is with us. There are, I think, 4 or 5 sections, and I think they're David's sections that deal with ideas of incentivizing areas that are potentially low-hanging fruit or needed uh, uh, to develop additional housing in the shorter term rather than the longer term. And so I wanted to walk through those. I think their genesis is from Senator Rahm Hinsdale's bill dealing with the omnibus housing bill, which is the bill we're dealing with in number at this point, S-226. So David, could you put up on the screen those sections? I think they're fairly sequential in nature, and we're going to talk about those bills and
Ooh,
those that bill.
there's sections 5. Yeah, beginning at 5.
Okay. Is Senator Rahm with us? I don't know that I've given her the opportunity to just briefly talk about these ideas and where she learned of them and who key players were. But I think all of them, there has been some progress on at least the mobile home portion, are fairly general incentive programs. Senator Rahm, are you with us? Okay, it doesn't look like she is.
She's not.
Okay, so let's the person who probably knows a little bit more than the rest of us on these ideas is David Hall, who got some information from Senator Rahm, and maybe he could just walk us through. We could read it, but if you have any more thoughts on these, that would be a good starting point on Section 5. David?
Hi, good morning. David Hall, Legislative Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're seeing Section 5 on your screen?
Yep.
Well, as this is S-226, a draft strike all amendment from the Committee on the Omnibus Housing Bill. And as the chair indicated, these sections 5, 6, 7, 8, and what was 9, and also 10 are all originally from the bill as it was introduced. Unfortunately, there's not more to be said than what's on the paper. They are kind of generic appropriations of $5 million each to the Department of Housing and Community Development for various purposes. Section 5 is for a grant program that would provide not more than $10,000 for purchase and closing costs of first generation home buyers. That's obviously going to have some overlap with the first time home buyer program the VHFA operates. I don't know the extent to the extent of the overlap or any further details than what you see in Section 5.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, as co-sponsor of the bill, I'd be happy to speak briefly to this.
Senator Rahm is here now.
Oh, good.
I'm
Right.
sorry.
So she could talk a little bit about this. My
Right.
reaction to this section was there is some overlap with the down payment assistance program, and I would think we would be better served if we want to do something like this to see if we can somehow give priority, a carve out, or somehow coordinate those two programs. I think a lot of the people are going to be the same. Some of them won't. But with that, I'd like to just give Senator Rahm an opportunity to talk about this section real quick.
Yeah, and Senator Clarkson could share her own thoughts, but when I talked to VHFA, while there's overlap, they specifically were identifying this as a gap, that the down payment assistance program offers a smaller amount of support, and, they wanted to try and make a larger amount available to people who don't have generational wealth from other homeowners in their family to rely on. We definitely talked about the definition being important, and I certainly have no problem combining the two in some way that allows them to be flexible about the amount that they give to someone if they deem them to be for a first generation home buyer. And Mara, I think, is happy to speak to this, and they have seen some language in other states to help craft that definition that's a little more specific than first time home buyer.
Okay, we're going to have Maura in tomorrow where she can talk about this. I've heard through the grapevine that for whatever reason, I don't fully understand, Maura has said that the first time the down payment assistance program is at capacity of some sort, that if we were to give her more money for that program at this point, she would not think, at least, that it would be the most effective place to put money at this point. So just keep that in mind. Maybe I have it wrong, but we'll hear from her tomorrow as a possibility of doing that. I know we started that program. We doubled the size of that program very quickly. And I think this is another addition to it, but we'll have to hear more about that. Does anybody want to mention anything about that before we go on to manufactured home relocation incentive? David can walk us. Go ahead.
May I just add?
Yes, I don't see your picture. I see everybody else. I'm sorry.
Oh, well,
Okay,
what a
go ahead.
refreshing break for you. I think this would be a natural addition to, and another aspect of that fabulously successful program of the down payment assistance program. And I think this gets at some of the equity concerns and huge disparate wealth concerns we have experienced in this state. So I actually, and we've talked about this in terms of maybe also incenting opportunity zones or having this done in certain areas. I think it would be really a great addition to an already very successful program and expand it in important ways.
Okay. So there has been a fair amount of discussion, I know, with stakeholders on addressing mobile home issues. And I think we'll hear from Josh in a little bit. I think the administration does support, is part of those stakeholders that supports targeting money towards relocating, refurbishing, et cetera, mobile homes in the state. I guess, again, along the lines like the VHIP program, trying to find areas of the state where we can produce more units quicker and less expensively than stick-built new housing or new construction. So they'll be talking to us about this. I don't know, David, if this language is taken directly from S226 or this is a new version of what a lot of the stakeholders have been working on.
With respect to section 5 specifically?
Section 6.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Section- Section 6 is, I think, under our bill.
That's what I meant. 6 is as it was introduced.
Yeah.
May I ask, Mr. Chair, this is Senator Ballen.
Senator
May I
Ballen.
ask where this originated from?
This was in 226, so I'll let Senator Rahman Clarkson talk about this section, and David could fill in the blanks. But I think this, as I've said, I've heard has been a lot of conversation
Yeah.
around this section with the administration and other people. I think somewhere I've seen the language, but it's not here yet. So let's.
Yeah, my
That's the
concern
question.
is we have folks in the state right now who are producing homes that would fill this gap. And so I have some concerns about a relocation incentive, and we can talk more about that, but I want to make sure that we're absolutely using the industries on the ground right now that can already fill this gap, as opposed to trying to incentivize another group coming here to do something that can already be done here. So I just wanted to sort of plant that stake in the ground and make sure we talk about it.
Great. Thank you
Thank
for that. Thank you. Yep. So Senator Ram, do you want to talk about this section, and then David could walk us through it real quick?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as some folks may know, the administration has proposed setting aside dollars for buyout of existing mobile homes, so that, especially in flood-prone areas, so that people could move. So this came out of a conversation with the existing CBOEO mobile home program that operates all over the state, to talk about what would work to actually give agency back to the mobile home park residents and communities, so that the conversation isn't just an individual buyout and somebody disappears. And frankly, that's just a challenging thing to do, is get a probably modest buyout for your mobile home and then move somewhere, out of your community that you may have been in for decades for, rents that are a lot higher than your lot rent. So the idea being this would fund community-based, community-led conversations and efforts to potentially move to higher ground, buy new parcels of land, beautify and, create amenities in mobile home parks, whatever. It's sort of centered on the folks themselves rather than a buyout that goes individual by individual to mobile home park residents, and could complement that. But certainly that's a lot to ask. People really want to stay in community. So this was an attempt at that language. And I think we should have the mobile home program in to talk about this. And they would really like to see dollars go toward repair and support for existing mobile homes as well.
Okay. So as we know, the very start of this bill, I've had this on every version of this, is that this is just a conglomeration of ideas that are taken from other bills. We haven't made decisions yet. And we spent a lot of time talking about some of the zoning and land use and accessory dwelling units. We've spent less time talking about these specific set-asides, but we're starting to roll up our sleeves right now. And Josh Hanford will be talking about this section very shortly, within minutes. So
I guess
David,
quickly, I'm trying to understand from Senator Ballen, like where she sees the creation, like going outside of the state to create new mobile homes.
What I'm saying is this is a lot of money that I want to make sure that we are, communicating with those industries within the state that are essentially creating homes that are more durable than these types of manufactured homes. And so I want to make sure that there's a place in here so that we're not, incentivizing other creators, additional creators of manufactured homes that are not durable. So we can go through the language and I'll explain more. I just wanted to make sure that we slow down a little bit here until I have an opportunity to talk about a particular company that is trying to fill this need for manufactured homes and is not really getting traction that I think that perhaps they deserve.
Okay.
Yeah.
In an interest of time, I would just like David, if you could quickly walk us through this section, and then I want to get to the other sections before we turn to Josh.
Yeah, it's only about 2 pages, but I think it's important to look at the language at this time and see the scope of what this would purport to do, because it's quite broad. It is $5 million, but there are a lot of different potential applications of that money. So again, the money would flow through DHCD. They would have to work in coordination with VHCB and stakeholders. They would basically create a funding program. And then what follows are all the potential applications of that money. So one is create a competitive pool of grant funding to assist with the cost of removing abandoned homes, building concrete pads to new HUD standards, and addressing smaller scale capital needs for those parks where limited operating revenue cannot reasonably cover those costs. Two is to create a competitive pool of grant funding available for rehabilitating some of the roughly 300 to 400 poor quality homes located within the overall portfolio, of which more than 100 may be at risk of abandonment, a remainder of which is still substandard. Three, to continue to provide leadership advocating for financing programs to assist buyers to finance and upgrade units, such as CHT's down payment assistance program. Four is to work with ACCD, affordable park owners, and other stakeholders to reframe the image of mobile homes as an affordable option in a more innovative and positive light, especially for younger buyers. Five is to provide mobile home repair grants for common needed home repairs, which range from $100 to $14,000, estimated average of $7,000. Six is to address existing program gaps, which would include bringing existing homes into ADA compliance by modifying entryways and bathrooms. B, providing funding to the Center for Independent Living Home Accessibility Program, which currently requires a resident match for owners with low income. C, creating opportunity for residents to electively move their structurally stable homes out of floodplains and potentially hazard locations due to climate change. Seven, to provide funds to supplement flood resilient community funds, which provide grants for home buyouts in floodplains, not for support and relocation services, including costs associated with slab pouring, other infrastructure set up for new lots that don't have that connection yet. 8, provide funding for down payment assistance in the purchase of new or used high energy efficient mobile homes to replace aging homes. And 9, improve the public image and well-being of parks by providing financial assistance to parks for placement of slabs and skirts, removal of derelict and abandoned homes, hazardous waste and pets, beautification of parks through gardening support, tree orchard plantings, D, creation of public space for families and children, and E, repair and maintenance of roads.
Okay. So what I would like to do, given our time restraints, is Josh with us now? Has he joined us? Okay. Well, he should be here. He said he'd be here at 11:30. What I'd like to do, David, is to just briefly go through the other sections so people are aware of them. And my thinking on these are they are sort of low-hanging fruit. We have to hear from the department on whether there's a way to incentivize employers. One of the things I like about there's Josh, about the employer thing is that we've heard about like Bennington Hospital and other folks that want to put money towards employee housing. And so maybe with a little sweetener, we can get the employer community to build housing where they would pick up most of the tab and they would be able to use it for their employees. And similar developers, in the marketplace, we know that commercial housing, commercial rentals are hurting, but there's a great deal for residential housing. So we want to hear some of the thoughts from the agency and the department on that. The last one is something that I've asked to be taken out of the bill, which deals with more human services kinds of support for housing. And I think that's more in the jurisdiction of the Human Services Committee than our committee. And I think we'd be replicating a lot of work that's being done in terms of supportive services in that area. But at this point, because we only have a half hour, I'd like to turn to Josh. What we've been talking about, Josh, is the mobile home section of this bill, which I'm sure you've read. And my understanding is you have been working with a lot of stakeholders on where the administration and stakeholders feel the priority spending should be for mobile homes. And I've heard that, the administration has landed on something where they feel they could spend this $5 million. I don't know whether it's in the governor's budget or where you would be taking it from, but I'd really like to hear your thoughts because like VHIP, this is a type of home ownership that can be put online probably relatively quickly and less expensively than stick-built housing. And we want to pursue that idea. So if you can help us get to that point, it'd be great to hear about what your thinking is.
Sure. Thank you. Good morning. You're right. Home ownership, affordable home ownership. We have over 7,000, Vermont families that live in mobile home parks, and manufactured housing is part of our housing solutions. We have a pretty robust Vermont mobile home park, law and statute. We've had a number of states copy ours just in the last few years, because we do have some protections and timeframes to keep those from, displacing people, or at least giving folks a chance to form a cooperative and take over ownership or offer for sale for nonprofit first. It's not always successful, but at least we have a chance, and we have a long 18 months time frame. The fact is, a lot of these mobile home park communities, though, need some assistance. They need some help. There are some deferred maintenance, both on the infrastructure side, and A&R has some funds right now, to help address sewer and water. They're taking applications. But one of the areas we think we can help is with abandoned mobile homes. We know that there's over 50 abandoned mobile homes in mobile home parks right now, over 350 vacant lots. All that is lot rent that's not collected, that makes the communities less successful. A lot of these lots have debris and just a lot of cleanup that needs to happen that really drives down the value of other people's homes nearby and, sense of community. And so we have been meeting with a number of stakeholders and sort of fashioning a response that's very similar to what you have in your bill. $5 million is the same price tag, and it targets in really three different ways: the mobile home park communities, so grants to the park owners, so cooperative, nonprofit, and private owners, to remove those abandoned homes that often have a lot of legal expense to take ownership and remove them, because someone passed away and it's stuck, and the homeowner, even if they wanted to and had the money, they couldn't remove the home without going through the legal process to gain ownership of it. At the same time you're doing that, it should be cleaned up. If there's any sewer or water connections that need to happen, electrical connections, get the lot ready for the next owner to move in. And so these would be grants of up to $20,000 per lot that needs to be abandoned home removed and the lot ready for redevelopment. And it would be managed as our group that met, which was Champlain Housing Trust, VHCB, VHFA, and a couple of the other larger mobile home park owners sort of all agreed that this would be the best model for a variety of reasons. And so this small infrastructure grant would go to the mobile home park owner, and it would come from DHCD. We'd have to manage, a competitive process. We'd have to have some sort of, way to ensure that, if we were, for example, seeking collections from a park owner that hadn't registered or was out of compliance, of course, they wouldn't be offered these grants. So a competitive grant system would need to be designed to deploy these funds. And then the next part would be a foundation grant. So, and CHT would manage this because they also manage the manufactured housing tax credit program statewide, because you can't just put a new foundation on a lot before a home is purchased. They have to come together because HUD has regulations where each lot needs to be designed, the foundation to fit with that home. And so they need to go as a package. But what that would allow is the ARPA money to go as a grant to install the pad, the foundation, whatever you want to call it, that would be an infrastructure to the benefit of all park owners, no matter if that homeowner that ended up using the tax credits to replace the home was there in perpetuity or not. That lot has now been improved, and it would be a grant so we can spend down the ARPA money that would then be matched with the down payment assistance that we use with the manufactured housing tax credit that we offer. So sort of three parts. And then the fourth, which was the newest concept, which is also in your bill, was about small repair grants to mobile homes. This is one that I think we have to really work out the details with the home ownership centers who do this work, because we already allow that with our CDBG funds that go to the home ownership centers to do repair loans and grants. And oftentimes you get to a point where, if the grant or loan, the rehab work on a mobile home is really above the assessed value, it's not good money to spend at that point. You should really be seeking replacement of that home. And so, what is the capacity of the organizations? What are those limits? There's a little bit more work that needs to be done around this area, but I know that CVOEO and others definitely support this as a need. We know it's a need. It's getting it right, what the maximum is. Do we have the capacity to run this? And I believe what I've heard is folks would also like the department to be the main deployer of those funds to the different home ownership centers that do this kind of work, but getting realistic about how many we can do, what's the right amount to put towards that effort is still, it's the newest piece that we're trying to work out. Right now, I think in our one pager, it's close to $1 million sort of put into that bucket. So that's where we are. I think it mirrors what you have as goals in there, pretty closely actually, and it puts less reliance on, foregone revenue to just increase the tax credit replacement, because that's only part of the solution, and allows us to use some of these ARPA funds now to have this ongoing change and improvement to our mobile home park communities that I think we all want to see, and really sets us up for a better future in those communities.
So is this program mostly designed, or the elements of this program mostly designed to save mobile homes from going offline, or to bring existing dilapidated homes back online, or both? And is this money in the governor's FY23 budget already?
So the governor's FY23 budget was another 55 million to support all sorts of rental and home ownership and mixed income. And it lists mobile home park communities as a goal for those funds, but it doesn't carve out X, for recovery housing, X for farm worker. It just allocates 55 million to address this in coordination with VHCB. And so I think this falls right in line with what we were hoping would be how we would address mobile home park communities, folks that live in manufactured housing. It seems like the right amount since we looked at all the numbers that are that we know because we collect this data yearly. We know that there's over 350 vacant lots that could use a foundation, and we could replace with a new energy efficient, manufactured home, and immediately get people into, safe, affordable housing. But we need to clean up some of these lots. We need to remove the abandoned ones. So I would say the majority of the effort is to get people into these new homes, but for the mobile homes that are in shape, that some moderate rehab can improve those homeowners, their standard of living, and it's a cost-effective way. I think that's something we need to do as well. We've already been doing it. It's not the majority of rehabs we do a year. We do about 100 a year with the existing CDBG program. And, I would have to go and look, but it's probably only about 10% are on mobile homes. And it gets to this situation where they're in a mobile home, they're in a park, and the rehab costs exceed the assessed value. It really becomes, is that the right public investment to make? And it's really hard sometimes to say no, because if that owner can't afford a new home, we're telling them no, but giving them no options. I think this proposal has the best of both worlds. We can say, you applied for a rehab. It's not really worth it, but let's take you down this road of trying to get you into a new manufactured home on that lot. We have a grant that can remove your own home. We can put a foundation down with another grant and then give you a 0% interest deferred loan until sale for your down payment. So the net result is your monthly mortgage is probably not much more than you were paying before, but you're in a new home, it's more energy efficient. And so that, I think, is the beauty of having this program with sort of 4 different elements to it, that we're actually providing folks the best alternative rather than the only alternative like we have now.
Okay, we're having Gus and Jen in tomorrow. Can you get us that one pager that you have outlined on the mobile home plan, and also any documents, I guess you probably shared with the Appropriations Committee on the 55 million?
Yeah, that's pretty a paragraph or 2 in the budget, but I can dig that up.
There's no breakdown on that 55 million.
And when we worked with Gus on sort of this, I think that everyone was didn't want to lock ourselves into 5 million for refugee housing, 5 million for recovery. We don't know. Those opportunities present themselves from the communities, and we wanted to specify and call out these type of needs, but not reserve X amount and then be stuck not having a place to spend it. And yet over here we have greater need. It's just a call out of all these various housing needs and specific needs without assigning a particular budget towards it.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, if I could jump in, Josh, I appreciate the information. I just want to clarify for everyone where I'm coming from. I certainly absolutely support our investments in mobile home parks. I know we have a huge number of folks in my district in Brattleboro who live in mobile home parks. And it is this committee, we have heard for years that it is a viable option for many families. My concern is just what you spoke to, Josh, which is it right for us to be incentivizing people? The issue that I have is like putting down another slab to have someone once again in a home that is not going to last as long as we would like it to last. And I would like us to make sure that we are looking at other alternatives to prefabricated housing that is not just the general mobile home park. And the reason for that is, coming from, my own personal history, there was a critical moment, and I'm just going to speak from the heart here, Josh, where I'm coming from. It's a critical moment where my dad got out of the military. They were looking for housing. They could not afford, to buy a stick-built home. We're seriously looking at buying a mobile home. And then you pencil it out, right? and you are often almost immediately paying for something that isn't worth the money that you've put into it. And that is my concern, is making sure that we're looking at all options for prefabricated homes to make sure that people are getting the value that they're putting in. And so if we are, putting money in to rehab homes, absolutely, I understand, but I just want to make sure we're looking at all options for those mobile home parks. I'm not against the program at all in terms of what we're trying to get to. I just want to make sure we're looking at all avenues.
Senator
Yeah,
Clarkson.
absolutely.
Thank you. Senator Clarkson.
Oh, I just would add two things. Yes, we have so many fabulous new creators of weatherized, renovated, Vermont is just so exciting to see what they're doing, but they're also more expensive, which is challenging. We've talked about this for a long time. The pads, actually, I was first introduced to the concrete pads, which often help raise the height of some of our mobile homes, whether they're older or newer, that to get them out of the floodplain. We did this in Woodstock with our mobile home park, that people who wanted to stay in place, despite having been flooded in Irene, when we raise the pad really helps raise it out of the floodplain in some cases, not all. Relocating is probably a better idea, but for those who want to stay, that is a real option. We are failing to talk about renovation, of course, includes weatherization of some of these. And that's critically important, because I think you're right. We don't want we want to reinforce the fact that sadly, most newer mobile homes are reasonably well weatherized, very well weatherized for what they're able to be done.
But they depreciate quickly.
Yes.
And
Yes, I think that
that's a concern for me with people who are already on a fixed income.
Yeah.
And we know that they're making these investments that are really important investments to their family, and they depreciate so quickly. So I just want to make sure we're doing some forward thinking about this and really giving people value.
I think that
No, and I'm just going to say VHCB is doing, when they're creating new mobile home parks or moving them, VHCB is doing, I think they have a whole park with Vermont housing in it, don't they, Josh?
there is. I mean, it's rental, most of it, but HUD is really engaging in this space a lot more than they used to. They have a whole program to encourage people, help them get mortgages, because really the mobile home industry, the manufactured housing industry has improved substantially over the last few years through, there's independent tests, there's really, really energy efficient homes that are affordable. And when you put them on a foundation, they actually have proven to not depreciate. There's actually appreciation happening. And with these newer homes, the standards have been greatly improved. We had Vermont, we have a company out of Maine. They are more expensive. They're about twice as expensive, but they're a viable option. I think that we also have to recognize that our mobile home park laws bring us some challenges in this area, because if they're all foundations, they're technically not a mobile home park. They're against Act 250. I mean, it could be I could talk about this for hours, but the issue here, like talking about this new proposal, when the governor, I presented it to the governor about the foundations. He's like, okay, we're gonna do these foundations. Let's make sure they include space for the fuel tank, because that's a whole nother program through A&R to clean up spilt fuel tanks and unstable. Let's make sure these foundations actually bring the right sort of situation for these homes to benefit people long-term. They have a little patio. They have a foundation for the fuel tank. After Irene, the governor removed 250 abandoned mobile homes with his company. And so is very familiar with kind of wanting to see these parks be much better than they are and be. So I think this is the first time we've had an opportunity to really invest in that holistic view of a mobile home park and how to improve all of it. And so, I understand. I at one point when I was very young, lived in a very cold, single-wide mobile home that was not sufficient for any of us.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. And I can talk more with the committee also about And I know Senator Clarkson, you mentioned Vermods, which, they're great. That's actually not what I'm thinking of, but I would love to talk more with the committee, but I won't take any more time with it now. Appreciate it.
Senator Hinsdale.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So Josh, I was just curious if you think the dollar amount of the loan or grant and the overall dollar amount for the program that you all have proposed is sufficient. I really appreciate you talking about no wrong door and giving people a lot more choice in how the money is used and making sure they feel they have agency if it's not meaningful to do a repair or improvement. Do you have a sufficient amount of money if people start to see more flexibility in how they could use the money?
I think that this 5 million, as we've penciled it out, it's certainly not going to address all the need, but it's going to make a big impact. And it's frankly more about the capacity of the system that we think we could. I don't know that we can move much more through it right now. We're going to double. This proposal doubles the number of homes we can replace. It builds about 80 foundations and cleans up about 100 lots. So it's a big step in the right direction, but it's not addressing the 300 lots that we know we have a problem. It's getting quite a bit done, but I think that if this is successful, we can use ARPA money for the next 3 years to do this. I'm hopeful maybe we can have an ongoing funding to just keep doing this, like you said. So there isn't a wrong door. We can help you rehab your home. We can help you replace it. We can help you put in a foundation. And we've got the ongoing tax credit that can subsidize the down payment assistance for you. Mobile home park owners have been asking for this help for a long time. They're seeing, more vacancies, more lots, and they're seeing their revenues decline. And that's not a good situation for the, 7,000 plus households that live in mobile home parks. And some of our communities like Pownell or St. George, that's a huge share of their residents live in mobile home parks. So I think this will be a win-win, and hopefully we can build on it.
Yep, and it's ARPA eligible, which is really a great piece of it.
So I'm a little confused, Josh. Is this the tax credit you're talking about, the same tax credit that Senator Brock and I are very familiar with in S101 for mobile homes that was coupled with the mansion tax?
Yes, so we have a state affordable housing tax credit that's been around since I think 2009. We added to it after Irene. It really does 4 things. It supports rental housing. It sort of adds on to the federal tax credit. It supports home ownership through the shared equity program. It supports the down payment assistance that VHFA runs, and it supports the manufactured housing replacement. And so the governor's proposed 3 years in a row, increasing the manufactured housing tax credit component of this, doubling that so we could do more of these. And that's a placeholder in the economic development bill now. And I guess what I'm saying is, since that budget was first proposed, we've as a housing sort of group have all met and said, hey, we can do more than just this tax credit. Let's expand this to do all these other things. The governor had already proposed $55 million in the budget with a specific call out to manufactured housing communities. And so we think we can do more than just increase the tax credit.
So the tax credit is being proposed somewhere in this bill or in the economic development bill for doubling?
It's in the economic development bill. I think our last testimony would be, it would be really good to have it brought over into this piece with the mobile home manufactured community together. But sort of the compromise here has been, instead of doubling that, it was more than doubled. The governor had like $1 million a year increase. The suggestion now is to back that down to $250,000 increase. Right now, it's only $200,000 a year for manufactured. So a little bit more than double it, and then use ARPA for the rest of these more transformative improvements to mobile home park communities. The net result is we're getting $5 million of investment in mobile home park communities. We're just not relying on as much of foregone revenue as we had originally proposed.
That's clear. I think we already have moved it over. You probably haven't seen the latest draft from this morning. We moved a
No.
bunch of stuff from economic development into the housing bill. So, okay. Any other questions for Josh? Senator Clarkson, I feel your pain.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just have this massive headache and I'm listening, but sometimes my eyes are closed, but I'm with you. I'm right here.
I have a headache too. It's not because of the committee. It's just, I don't know what it is today.
And so do I.
know,
So we're
it's-
all together today. We're all hurting this morning for some reason.
And I apologize for being in and out. My parents are putting down our family dog today, which is just as hard for them, harder for them. So.
All right, well, we're pretty much at the closing time. We have quite a lineup tomorrow, including VHCB. And I think we're going to touch on a lot of these. Just before we go, Josh, do you have any comments on, there were two other sections in the housing bill with $5 million appropriations. I call them somewhat low-hanging fruit with incentives for large employer-based housing, and also for, we hear a lot about the commercial market sort of hurting, and maybe we can turn commercial units. The thing that I find interesting about those things is that maybe we can get a lot of matching funds from employer or developer community if we can sweeten the pie a little bit. I don't know if you've given much thought to those at all.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at them. I think we can say we appreciate the work there. I don't know if the exact amounts or, how it would all, what the mechanics are to get it done. But I've talked to so many major employers that are all thinking about building their own housing for their employees, but they all come to the same conclusion. It just doesn't they just can't. It doesn't pencil out for one. They don't want to be both employers and landlords. But the goal is still the same. They want to see more housing available for their employees out there. And so they would participate, I'm sure, in some sort of incentive if we can come up with the right mechanism to do that.
Yeah, and there's a piece in Dicker today, Mr. Chair, about an employer who wanted to do this and just found the cost so prohibitive without a partner that I think maybe the time is ripe for this.
And that's a construction company.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and if they can't figure out how to make it cost effective, we're in trouble.
I also just want to say, I don't think it's very carefully spelled out in the bill right now because it was a placeholder, but I don't know that we want to see employers as landlords as well. I think it's more investment from the employer in housing that they know will benefit their employees, but not as the landlord.
And I think we definitely support to help people transition properties that aren't really serving the market now into housing. Right now I think it's $50,000. Like those conversions are often as expensive as building new. So I'm not sure what it would take, but the goal is shared. And also I would add that if we're going to do that, I think it's a wise place to relax the permitting because you already have, broadband, sewer, water, roads, parking lots, electricity. It's a great place to reuse for housing. And I don't see why we would want to trip up and, trigger a whole new Act 250 processes for converting some of that in the short term. If we could avoid that, I think that would help.
So just to finish up on that, I mean, these are big issues. I mean, the number's kind of arbitrary at $5 million, but clearly we're not going to be able to flesh these ideas out this week. So, maybe like a reporting section to come back with ideas, or maybe that the House with a little bit more time can pick up on these sections and come up with a better solution.
And I know you're going to talk to Gus tomorrow. Gus and I chatted a little bit, and he sort of had an even maybe broader look at this, like thinking about these 5 different pieces that really DHCD has a name attached, and the goals is like more of a comprehensive funding with the goal of supporting the municipality's goals to increase their housing. In one municipality, it may look like conversion of an office building with an employer-based incentive. In another community, it may look like something slightly different. But if you can think about all this as a chunk of money to help meet the communities where they are, those that have done the zoning and the planning and are ready. And we can play a role in that comprehensive housing solution where we're encouraging A&R to put in the sewer and water there, because we already have this interagency committee. We're encouraging AOT to do the right transportation improvements, public, and we have the money to actually make it happen, because that's part of, you need this incentive to bring everyone along. And we haven't had that comprehensive sort of pot of funding that can play all those different, bring everyone along. And maybe Gus might chat a little bit more about what he was talking with me about, a way to see these different sections maybe come together into something that's a little bit more comprehensive, but has all the same original goals as what you have in there.
Okay. Sounds promising. It sounds hard and challenging.
Yeah.
But we'll see what we can do. Senator Clarkson. We're
Yeah,
beyond the witching hour, Senator Clarkson.
What?
We're beyond the
Oh
witching
my gosh, are we already at time?
Yes.
Yikes. I was just going to say some of this, you're right. There needs to be some flexibility because all large employers, for example, are different. Some large employers are in the hospitality industry, and big resorts have a lot of land. So they could partner with a municipality and a housing partner of ours to come up with more workforce housing, some of it for their employees and some of it for a broader. So every one of these projects is going to be slightly different, I think. But if we can figure out how to incent them, I think they'll happen.
Yep. And we have to do that in 2 days. Thank you all.